Welcome back to the show. Check out these headlines. XRP's perfect storm. You won't believe what's lining up. And XRP Yield is coming. XRP Yield is coming. And it could be the greatest unlock of idle liquidity in the digital asset space. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on X, YouTube, and DigPerspectives.com for exclusive content. Right now, $3.92 trillion market cap for crypto, and the market is up 0.5%. Bitcoin right now, 111,000 plus. Ethereum, 4,200 plus, knocking on 4,300's door. Number 3 spot, XRP, is 283. We're up 1% on the 24 and up 0.5% on the 7-day. Careful what we call progress, but I think we got good news none the same. So here, ranging between 280 and 284, we are at the top side of that range. Ooh, let's see what happens as we prepare to head into the work week. Will the Korean market get going later on tonight and send it moving? I don't know, but I do know this. I think you're going to love this video and all the information we're going to cover today. So let's get started right here. Institutional grade yield protocol on the XRP ledger with 7% fixed APR in real USD. This is Soil. And I tried to get some background, like who's behind Soil. I don't have anything yet other than what we see here is Meet Soil, an institutional grade yield protocol now coming natively to the XRP ledger, supported by Ripple Securitize, which is BlackRock and Hamilton Lane funds. So this is tied into some real heavy money here, ladies and gentlemen. And we got to find out about that 7%. That's what we need to find. That's what I want to know about. Talk to me about that 7%. I want to hear about it. And then here we have a reminder here. Flair has been working for a long time, head down, shoulder to the grindstone. Shout out to Hugo. You guys know, if you've been following the channel, we've been working so closely with ETHgate in the past, exposing what we believe is corruption inside the SEC and the free pass and all of this that went along with it, that talking about things like DeFi and meme coins and those things has been absolute no-no on this channel, because we know we have watchful eyes in a very powerful place, because they're not happy about the things that were exposed from myself, Deaton, digital asset investor, certainly, and many, many others out here in this space. And shout out to all the American patriots who died on that hill, and willing to die on that hill, rather, but we still have made it through. But the reason I've stayed away from this stuff is because when we had Gary Gensler in the Biden administration, and everyone was a target, even if you weren't doing anything wrong. And we knew exactly what that felt like. But I think now is the time for people like Hugo and Flare Networks and DeFi broadly. Our time is here now, and it's going to get a lot of fun to watch this stuff grow. Take a listen.
We are seeing some of these DAT companies, digital asset treasury companies out there, obviously Vivo being one of them. But you guys are doing something specific around yield generation. Can you talk about that?
So one of the most important aspects of a DAT company is you want to be able to grow your stake in the network. Let's say in this instance, it's XRP. You don't want to have to keep raising money in order to increase your position. You know, you raise money when your equity value is higher than your net asset value. There's lots of routes to do it, but largely a lot of people have done offerings when their equity value is higher than their net asset value. But an alternative way to do it is if you have an asset that yields, you can convert that yield back into the currency of your choice. You know, if you've got XRP and you can derive, let's say, 8%, then your treasury, your balance is increasing at 8% per year, which is a very good way to do it. So we were talking with Vivo Power. They like what Flare is doing. They like what Firelight is doing. They like our downstream DeFi ecosystem from staking. You know, they decided to commit $100 million of XRP to the Flare ecosystem.
So do you feel like this is going to be one of the tool sets that institutional capital could come in and say, hey, this is a great example of how XRP can be put to work? Do you anticipate more companies kind of joining what Vivo is doing and starting to use Flare as the outlet?
Absolutely. Okay. You know, we think that one of the larger sort of opportunities for Flare in the space is digital asset treasury companies like Vivo that hold XRP, and there are a few, but Vivo's one of the biggest, if not the biggest. But exchanges as well, because I think around 80% of people that hold XRP are holding their XRP on an exchange. And exchanges want to be able to offer their customers a way to get yield on the tokens they're holding. So, really our focus in business development around the DeFi ecosystem for XRP on Flare and for Firelight has been around courting exchanges. And then, of course, having other types of vaults, not Firelight. So one of the things that's quite nice and a huge differentiator between the vaults that currently exist on XRP and the vaults that can exist on a smart contract chain like Flare is that the vaults for XRP naturally go and get their economic exposure through a centralized exchange. The problem with that is they have a counterparty risk. They have a counterparty risk with that centralized exchange, meaning if that centralized exchange goes bankrupt, then the money that that vault provider has put on that centralized exchange may be lost. And that's rather unpleasant, and we've seen that before. In fact, we've seen it many times in our industry. One of the things about vaults with regards to Flare DeFi, and there will be vault offerings for Flare DeFi specifically that are separate from Firelight. One of the things about vaults that can use Flare DeFi is those strategies can be carried out entirely on chain, and therefore you don't have the same exposure to the credit of the exchange. And this means that you're using a DEX, an on-chain lending protocol, an on-chain first protocol. And so whilst there is still economic risk with regards to the markets, the price risk or liquidation risk, you don't have the same risk, counterparty risk. And this is quite nice relative to the vaults that currently exist on XRP.
There you have it. I got to be honest. I mean, this is getting super exciting to see all of this unfold. And I do believe we're about to see the greatest unlock of idle liquidity for XRP. Now, the legislation, everything is coming, the market infrastructure bill, and it's all going to be green light. Now, take a look at this as a reminder of what we saw news-wise this week was the announcement that we saw Ripple tapping Africa and getting in there and getting RLUSD across Yellow Card, Valar, and there was one other. But take a listen to this clip. Now, there's a little music here, and I don't think it'll be a copyright issue, but nonetheless, if it is, I just wanted to give you that information in case I have to cut it out. Take a listen.
Rewiring financial infrastructure in a way that's good for society.
Breaking news, guys. Ripple just launched their US dollar-backed digital stablecoin RLUSD in Africa. And this is absolutely monumental because they partner with African giants Chipper Cash, Yellow Card, and Valor. Between those three, they move billions of dollars and touch millions of users across the continent. And Africa is a prime market because they have one of the youngest and fastest growing populations in the world.
There's no question about it. And I'm just going to stop it right there in case it is a copyright issue with the music in the background. But, Valar, Chipper Cash, and Yellow Card all using Ripple's RLUSD to tap into Africa. And now this is opening up to tens of millions of users. I think it was 60 or 90 million users, mobile apps, and then 130 plus countries, the reach of this thing. It's quite remarkable. So there's a lot to this, and I just wanted to highlight that again because this is a perfect storm taking place, and I want to keep going with that. Now let's take a look at Robinhood CEO Vlad Tenev and what he says should be next. He said we should be thinking beyond Bitcoin and meme coins.
I believe it will make it easier to invest in American companies if you're outside the world. It will also bring the markets into 24/7 and fully on-chain, and get all the benefits that crypto technology levies on these traditional assets. So I think it's time to move beyond Bitcoin and meme coins into real world assets that exhibit fundamental utility.
Did you hear that part?
Bitcoin and meme coins into real world assets that exhibit fundamental utility.
Fundamental utility, real world assets. This is what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. This is why I'm saying I cannot understand the Bitcoin maxis. I just can't. It's like Bitcoin is its own thing. It's like, I don't understand, Anyway, I can't get my needle stuck, but nonetheless, real world assets. Isn't that why Ripple bought Hidden Road and Rail Financial? Isn't it? And isn't that indicative of the first ever Swell conference in 2017? And when Brad Garlinghouse said this, and how true it is today, and proof of their execution of the plan and staying to the plan, because they did buy Hidden Road and Rail Financial.
That constantly exactly. Goes. I mean, ultimately, as you know, Ripple is really focused on how do we enable an internet of value? How do we make value move the way information moves today? And that's our big kind of multi-year, 10-year view of how the world will evolve. And it's really how do we dial that back and to make it tactical and real today and tomorrow. And I think if you want to enable an internet of value, you've got to connect the repositories of value.
Right.
And
just for the record, depositories are like the DTCC and Hidden Road and the banks of the world.
Repositories of value, as big as the Bitcoin value proposition is today, the banks own trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of assets. So if we want to enable an internet of value, we got to connect the banks and payment service providers and MSBs, and we're excited to have made a bunch of progress on that.
And that was in 2017. Look at what we know today that's actually real. Hidden Road, all this other stuff. And here's a reminder, when I sat down with Miguel Villas years ago, back in 2020, 5 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, and asked him this question right here. And he was the head of XRP Global Markets.
Talked about speaking about XRP having at some point the same liquidity of a G10 currency. Chris Larson had spoke about the XRP having the same liquidity as like a Swiss franc. Could you speak to that a bit?
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. The goal is to make this a global currency.
Talked about speaking of.
The goal is to make this a global currency. And that's why you would want to hook the repositories of the world to it, so you could get the liquidity necessary to operate as a reserve global currency. I mean, that's really the truth right there, which means SWIFT is in play. And we know SWIFT has got SWIFT GPI, and we know we have Ripple payments. And it's been made very clear that we're not trying to replace SWIFT, but we're at a place where SWIFT will need to work with us. In fact, there was at the most recent Apex not long ago, we saw Brad Garlinghouse, and I can't play this because of the music in it, but he said, where will we be in 5 years with SWIFT as far as adoption? And he says he thinks more about liquidity than the messaging side. So he says, in 5 years, I project we'll have 14% of SWIFT's business. That's it. Says XRP Ledger will cover 14% of Swiss system. And here they even talk about
the videos I have mentioned. The alternative to SWIFT is Ripple. Okay, so it's
the alternative shift is Ripple. The new technology is Ripple. I'm just telling you what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. In order to get the liquidity necessary to handle the kind of volume they're headed for, you got to connect the repositories of the world, ladies and gentlemen. And here's a quick clip from Apex Crypto Consulting, NFA. You need to follow this guy. He does a great job on his channel. And one day, Apex, I'll get you on the channel. It's just been insane. I absolutely want to sit down and have a great conversation with you. And I know we will when we do, but my life is just a dumpster fire with nothing but good things going on, but I just mean scheduling wise. So forgive me. We will get to you, I promise. And I'm looking forward to it because I know you're a smart guy. Take a listen to this clip and the connections from this picture here from the IMF World Bank meeting where Brad Garlinghouse is in it, obviously, and many other important people.
And again, these are all major. This guy right here is Rob Pelletnick. He's the managing director and chief technology architect at the DTCC, the Depository Trust Corporation Company. They settled, I think this year estimates are they're going to settle, I think, 3,600 trillion. So 3.6 quadrillion in settlements per year. This is DTCC right here. And then these are all very high ranking people in the financial industry.
Christine Lagarde, as we know, right? She's now at the ECB, European Central Bank. She was the managing director of the IMF at that time. Then we see the DTC announcing that they could tokenize 100 trillion worth of assets unilaterally without anyone's permission. And at the same time that Ripple's recently acquired Hidden Road approves, is getting a licensor and approval to help settle it all. There it is. March 11th, 2025, Hidden Road. is cleared to help the netting system of government securities division. There it is right there, ladies and gentlemen. That's what this is about.
The CEO, Frank LaSalle, and the board had foresight that, hey, this is a disruptive technology model. As I mentioned to you, the one right to win that DTCC has in this model is we are the record keeper for quadrillions of dollars of transactions, but for fundamentally assets under record, approximately $100 trillion worth of assets. So unilaterally, without the need to engage anyone else, we can actually make it possible to tokenize $100 trillion worth of value. No one else can do that with assets. So unilaterally, without the need to engage anyone else, we can actually make it possible to tokenize $100 trillion worth of value. No one else can do that efficiently. So we have both a right and a responsibility to do that effectively for the financial markets because it unlocks so much.
Now, let me ask you a question. Who else is connected to the DTCC in the manner that Ripple and Hidden Road are to facilitate the tokenization of $100 trillion worth of securities, let alone settle them? Take your time. I'll wait. If you know, you know. The translation for me is, as Cowboy Crypto pointed out here, a list of U.S. licenses and disclosures from Rail Financial holds who was just acquired by Ripple. And the list is remarkable. Look at the list. It's incredible. Shout out to Cowboy Crypto, who's an OG. If you know, you know. The translation here for me is Ripple isn't buying Hidden Road and Rail Financial because they're not getting a banking license. In fact, it's quite the opposite. They are acquiring these companies because they are going to get a banking license. And by the way, who else is connected to the DTCC to even help them settle the $100 trillion of tokenized assets that they're going to do without anyone's permission? Who else is going to help them? That's why we get so much heat, ladies and gentlemen. Because in order to have the world's new financial system with all the world's money on it, you're going to need to connect the repositories of the world. And where is a lot of this locked up, this liquidity locked up? In securities, stocks, bonds, and equities. That's what we're talking about. And we know that they're tokenizing them right now for everyone. They built the market infrastructure for everybody. You think they're going to go somewhere else to get tokenized? No, it's not going to happen. So, not going to happen. Right. So in case you're wondering why we get so much heat from maxis, it's this. In case you're wondering why it's so important to have all this real world asset tokenization on Ledger, it's so you can support the liquidity to move all of this value around like this. Now let's take a look at what's going on in the charts. On the XRP daily time frame is poised to retest $3 weekly resistance line. RSI is getting bullish. We identified the 285 level as primary support, which is kind of, we're just dancing underneath of that now. So you can currently see it's acting as resistance, which is not uncommon. So you might see a little more downside to the 274, but we may hold and break through the 285. This is where we're at. Upsides in front of us. Let's take a look at the next chart. Ripples in Wales. Shout out to you, my friend. He does a great job. Give him a follow. XRP, whichever way you look at this chart, it's very bullish. It's coming. Take a look at that baby right there. Yeah, I say let her play right on out. I can hang out. When you got a chart that looks like this, I am patient as all get out. Matter of fact, I'm rolling nickels trying to figure out how I can get more XRP before it happens. Then Steph Crypto shares this chart, which shows that we could break through and get overextended like we've seen in history's past for XRP. And if it does, this is where we start dancing around that $30 plus $40 price point that we've seen from so many others, including Eggrag Crypto has talked about this overextended possible scenario, right? So you got to have a plan for everything. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, right? But these are the things that are possible. And we got to know how hard these things actually take place. Now, this is a fantastic chart from Eggrag Crypto. It's a total market cap chart. And it says it's quite possible we could see a peak of $21 trillion this cycle. Wild, but nothing is impossible. And lessons here from crypto are that nothing is impossible. Crypto's taught him that nothing's impossible. Surprising resilience. When a coin seems dead, it can pump the hardest. And that is absolutely what XRP does. Even when a project is struggling, a single wild candle could change lives. Support from allies. When government shut down crypto, pro-crypto governments of major hedge funds stepped in to support it. And now we have the blessing of the government, right? So he says, now I'm basing my targets and historical data and market behavior during the last phases and often follow the parabolic pattern. So in December 2017, the TMC surged an astonishing 800% from the top of the yellow channel. In December 2020, it pumped 400%, which is 50% less with the previous cycle. And then if the total market cap follows the trend and achieves 50% pump in December of 25, we could see a 200% increase, bringing the total market cap to around 21 trillion. And what if this is all a part of making America great again? And you know what? I actually believe that it is. It's not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. Happy Sunday. I'll catch all of you on the next one.